Today is April 18, 2016. This is a topic that I don't like to get into much on my YouTube channel. In total, I've only done about 3 to 4 videos on the LGBT topic, but after what I experienced today, I feel I have been left with no choice but to show everyone what is going on. So this article that I have up right now, this exemplifies everything I'm going to be presenting in this video. At the present time of the making of this video, this article is linked on the Drudge Report, and I have to say, I like Drudge's link far better than AP's link. The link reads on Drudge as follows: poll, vast majority of Americans don't trust the media. And after you see what I'm going to present, you're going to see why Americans don't trust the media. Really, it's very obvious. Now, believe it or not, there was a time when I didn't make YouTube videos, and during that time, I had a much different life than I do now. I was very much a regular guy. I loved sports, loved doing all those kind of things, but especially, I was a huge fan of the NBA, loved basketball, still love the game of basketball, but I have to tell you that I cannot stand the NBA today, and in the last several years, I have not caught more than a handful of games, and during this season, I probably saw a total of maybe 2 to 3 games all throughout the entire season. But after seeing what I saw, it popped into my head that the NBA is run by social justice warriors. Because if you're going to watch basketball, at least professional basketball, not only do you get to watch basketball, but you get to be inundated with leftist, progressive advertising that pushes social justice warrior issues. It's unbelievable. If you watch the NBA, you're going to see their anti-gun campaign. You're going to see pro-Obamacare advertising. And today, for the first time in my life, I saw an advertisement with NBA players where they were talking about gender equality. I don't want to hear about gender equality while I'm watching a freaking basketball game. So as you can imagine, I more or less tuned out of the game. It actually stayed on for a while, but I just started doing things around the house because I just got disgusted by the whole thing. So later on in the day, I had pretty much forgotten all about that because really, I don't really care what the NBA does or doesn't do. It has nothing to do with my life anymore. So I had forgotten about it. So later in the day, we were at my in-laws, and if you've ever wondered why I have all these LA Times articles in my videos, it's because my in-laws, they get the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday subscription to the LA Times. So every time I go over there, there's usually about 4 or 5 papers for me to look at. So I'm going through the papers today, and this is actually not the first time this has happened. This has actually happened a few other times. So I could have easily made this video 5 or 6 other times prior. But as I said in my introduction, I don't really like talking about LGBT issues on my YouTube channel as they are too polarizing. And I recognize the fact that with 16,000 subscribers, there are all types of people who are watching my videos. And I don't need to get into those issues that much. So I'm going to the paper, and every freaking article is either about transgenders, blacks, diversity, women's issues. I mean, it was just never ending. I mean, it blew my mind. And even with all this junk with the NBA earlier in the day, all these outrageous articles, I was still not going to make a video about what I'm about to show you. But then, in the very last paper that I looked at, there was an article that upset me so much that I just say, you know what? This is enough. I'm making this video. And I'm going to show you what that article is in a minute. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you all the shocking articles that I saw that led me to this point. Now, each article individually is not shocking by itself. There are some that are very generic, but when you put all these together, it's very clear that there is an agenda here. Now, I think this all the time, so don't ever think that I don't think this. And I know many of you do as well because I see the comments in my videos. But, you know, if you're thinking, oh, the LA Times, I mean, you know, they're a joke. You know, oh, they're mainstream media. Yeah, you're right. They are a joke. They are mainstream media. And they are exemplifying what is in the article that is on screen right now. People do not trust the mainstream media. And we're going to get into that right now. In total, I have 7 articles that I took pictures of. I did not want to keep them as I don't want them in my house. There's an 8th article that I did keep that I highlighted up that I will be presenting. But the 7 that I took pictures of, they span 3 days. Only 3 days. And that is to show you how in your face all of this is, and the fact that the leftist mainstream media, they think that we all think in this same manner. So these articles, they are from Thursday, April the 14th, 2016, Saturday, April the 16th, and Sunday, April the 17th. I did not find the Friday newspaper as it was misplaced. So I didn't even get to see all of the papers that I would normally get to see, and I still had this much to go through. So here's the first one. This one is titled, "It's a First for LA Schools," and it says right here, "Santee Education Complex's gender-neutral restroom joins a growing movement," and it says, "Alonzo Hernandez is glad for Santee's neutral gender restroom. He felt uncomfortable using the boys' bathroom because he had been known as a girl, yet in this article, he is known as a boy." So that's the first one. Article number 2, LA votes to boycott 2 states. And then it says right here, a Duke University student protests against a North Carolina law passed last month that limits legal protections for LGBT people. Now, article number 3 is the most shocking, and it's on this same topic. So here it is. It's a full-page article because the LA Times thinks that everybody wants to read full-page spreads of articles titled "Transgender Boy Unburdened," and I'm not going to apologize at all. I find this to be disgusting. I don't care what you want to do with your own body, but the fact is, I don't want to read full-page articles about it. So here's what happened. It says, breast removal surgery means a new freedom for a once despondent San Diego teen. And then it says up here, about 6 weeks after surgery, Sam Molig enjoys going shirtless at the pool in San Diego. He says his double mastectomy was kind of like a dream. So apparently, this was a girl at one time, and now it's a boy. And I definitely have quite a few things that I want to say about this. For me personally, I want to live in a free country, and I want to live in a free society, and I recognize what that means and the fact that there are going to be things that I don't like, that I don't really tolerate, but that's part of living in a free society. So if you live in a free society, I believe a man should have the right to put on a dress and go out in public so long as he's not physically harming anybody else. And see, here's the issue though. We are seeing this society that we are currently going into where some people have freedom and others don't, and that is reminiscent from the story Animal Farm by George Orwell. And the famous quote from Animal Farm was, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others," and that is what we are seeing. So if a man has the freedom to go out wearing whatever he wants, looking like as big of a freak as he wants, then that means that if a bunch of guys are in the same store with the man in the dress, they should have the right to make fun of him, to laugh at him, to scorn him, to do whatever they want so long as they are not physically harming him. Because if you're going to go out looking a certain way in the free society, you should have to deal with whatever the consequences are. But instead what we are seeing is the man has the right to wear the dress out in public, but we are forced to tolerate it, and we are forced to hold our tongue, because if we say what's really on our mind, they want to have hate speech laws, and they want to have all this BS nonsense that we're not tolerant, and how we have to behave a certain way in public. I don't see it that way. If we're going to have a free society, then that means everybody should be allowed to do what they want. So I don't really care what these people do. But the point being is that every freaking article in this paper for 3 days is about this and other social justice warrior issues. So let's continue on with the other SJW articles that are in the paper spanning only 3 days. Article number 4. Are women-only car services legal? I don't even know why we're even asking this to begin with. If we change the word women to men, there will be an epic freak out by the media, by the social justice warriors, and some way, somehow, it would be Donald Trump's fault that the question was even asked. The fact of the matter is, there will never be total equality in our society between men and women, and the reason for that is because there are hundreds of double standards in our society that benefit men or women one way or the other, and those are never going to go away. And as long as we have those double standards, which I don't like, but they're there, but as long as we have them, society is always going to be the way that it is. Article number 5. Seeking more diversity in high-tech fields, because in this day and age of fairness and equality, your qualifications no longer matter in getting a job. The number one qualification to get a job now is the color of your skin and how ethnic sounding your last name is. Article number 6. Female politicians losing ground. Another giant article promoting sexism. Who gives a crap if there's less women in office? You know whose fault that is? It's women for not running for the seats in the first place. If you have a race for a political seat between several men, it's not the men's fault that there's no women running. It's the women's fault. So this is just promoting more of the same BS that they think all of us are going to buy into. Article number 7, and the final article, Hillary fights to secure the black vote, basically insinuating that she's already screwing everybody else who's going to vote for her, so now she wants to screw over the black people. And so as I stated earlier in the video, I really had no intention of showing all of that, but then I found this masterpiece, and I felt I had no choice but to show everyone what's going on in this country. So this is dated Thursday, April the 14th, 2016. Back of the paper, it's an editorial. It is titled, "Are you inside or outside the culture bubble?" It says, during the last year, Have you purchased domestic mass market beer to stock your own fridge? Have you patronized Applebee's or Chili's? During the 2014-15 television season, did you regularly watch Scandal, The Voice, or How to Get Away with Murder? If your answer is no to the beer, the restaurants, and the TV shows, then you're probably going to be shocked at the current state of American politics. Adapted from political scientist Charles Murray's 2012 book, Coming Apart, The State of White America 1960 to 2010, these questions are part of a quiz that aims to measure the thickness of the cultural bubble in which you live. The fewer meals you've had at Applebee's and the less you know about network television, the thicker your bubble, which is to say, the more clueless you are about how Americans think and feel. So you see what they are doing here? They are basically saying that if you drink, if you watch the crap TV shows, and if you eat at the GMO restaurants, then you think like most Americans. And if you've ever watched A Man on the Street, you can see how stupid most Americans really are. Let's keep going down. The bubble quiz is obviously more parlor game than scientific measure, but what it tests is still revealing. The questions say a lot about American values and the perception that progressivism is careening toward the mainstream, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because the LA Times, the mainstream media, and basically TV in general, they are assuming and putting onto all of us that every single person in the country is a leftist, a progressive, and believes in all this nonsense, when the reality is this progressivism is a tiny minority, which they go on to admit in this article. So continuing on, I'm not just talking about the so-called media elite, which, depending upon whom you ask, is either shamelessly furthering a liberal agenda or shamelessly bending to corporate pressures. I'm talking about the people who gravitate toward coastal cities in order to escape the parochialism of real America, and then forget that their sensibilities and worldview are not shared by the majority. Because all these crazy left-wing radicals, they are not American. They hate America. And I'm not talking about the continental United States. I'm talking about America, the idea. They hate freedom of speech. They hate the right to bear arms. They want to live in a totalitarian system. And every day of my life, I have to deal with this exact crap right here, living on the left coast with all these people who think that everywhere is like California, when that couldn't be farther from the truth. This is more than a little ironic. After all, it is very often alienation, or at least outsider status, that propels them into their hipster enclaves to begin with. From there, the rare-filled magic of drinking craft beer and hanging out in groovy coffee shops. And here's why I am bringing this up.
But what we don't want is for Mr. Lewis to transform the Inland Empire into a hipster urban utopia, because that's what all these presentations show. They show a hipster society where young hipsters ride their bikes to the coffee shop and then hang out in the park afterward. And it's all presented as this perfect utopia.
Did you hear what I said in that clip? I said hipster. I said coffee shops. I'm not making this stuff up. There is an agenda to transform every city in this country that is allowed to remain a city into an urban hipster utopia where the Bernie Sanders millennials ride their bikes to the coffee shop and then hang out in the park afterward. And about 20 minutes after I made that speech, a girl about my age came up to me and told me how wrong I was, that I was misrepresenting people like her, that not everyone is a hipster. Well, you know what? She's not really wrong, but I'm not wrong either, Because what we're seeing is there is an agenda to have a hipster society. Because when you open the newspaper, if the articles aren't about transgenders, then they're about hipsters. Because, I mean, look at this. You got the hipsters on their phones, the coffee shop in the background. This is the reality and the society that they want for all of us, because they know that these morons are easily controlled and will go along with the agenda, and they will have no problem checking their white privilege at the door. So what I want to know is, when did the memo go out that America was going to be trans world, social justice utopia? Because this all just seemed to happen all of a sudden. I've been doing YouTube videos for over 3 years, and when I first started doing YouTube videos, this crap wasn't happening. It was happening to some degree, but it went from 0 to 60 overnight. And I want to know what was going on the day this was decided, because either I was asleep, I was out of town, I was on vacation, because this crap is ridiculous. This stuff in the newspapers that I'm showing you, it wasn't like this 6 months ago. Almost every time now that I see the set of 4 newspapers at my in-laws, this is the garbage that I'm seeing. I'm either seeing pictures like this one, or I'm reading about how girls are chopping them off and walking around the pool topless. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. That's all for now. Ground 61 signing out.